Hello everyone and welcome to another R&D where I take a look at some various sorts of things in the gaming industry and basically just kind of ramble on about what it means for everyone. This one is a little controversial, I suppose, but that's part of the point of the show, so here we go. Today we're going to talk about Steam Early Access, that being the new system, well, fairly new system, on Steam that allows devs to submit basically unfinished games and help to get funding in order to finish them. It works similar to a way that Kickstarter works, only it's obviously explicitly for games and hosted by Valve themselves. So I've got some fairly serious problems with this system, and that's what this video is really going to be about. So the game in the background, by the way, is Star Sector, a very heavily modded Star Sector. You might know it as Starfarer, however, its name has changed, and I'll probably do an updated video on it very soon. So anyway, here we go. The Steam Early Access system is a really neat initiative by Valve to include a newly emerging part of the market in their service, that being the whole buying alphas and betas, unfinished games, in order to help to fund the current development of the game, as well as being a part of that development by playing all of the early release builds and things like that. It's really a pretty cool system, and it's a very interesting idea, a very good idea, in my opinion. However, it's got some serious flaws, and what I mean by that is there are some problems with it. Let's just go right into it. Let's go right now to Steam and look at the top sellers. The top 10 top sellers right now. The first two are Rust and DayZ. Both of those are early access games. Now let's continue going down, and we see that the fifth one is Starbound. And the ninth one is 7 Days to Die. So there are 4 early access games in the top 10. Almost half of the games in the top 10 sellers on Steam are early access. That is very impressive. Now, obviously, unfortunately, Steam doesn't release sales data, so we've got no idea exactly what that means, exactly, how many copies that means they're selling, but it's a lot. And these games, especially Rust and DayZ, have both been vying for the top spot on this top sellers list for weeks now. So let's just go to one of them. Let's say Rust. Hey, Gary Newman's new adventure, Rust. Yes, that's when I was born. Thank you very much. We see the blue banner that says Early Access Game. Get instant access and start playing. Get involved with this game as it develops. Now that's basically the only thing that Steam makes them post. It is just this blue banner that says, hey, this is an early access game, this isn't a full release game, look. Now, I've got some issues with this, and here's why. This blue box that is below every early access game has no actual guideline as to what is put in it. It's just like a quote from the developer. Right now it's, basically Gary like, hey, what's up? The game is going to be great eventually. Sorry. And that's all it says. That's not useful. And here's my problem with this. That is not useful information to have. If we look at some of the other games on early access, let's say Starbound. Under Starbound, this box is still under there, and it says it's playable and has a lot of content, but it's basically in beta. This is why we release it in beta, etc., etc. Updates are coming fast and adding new content. And then you have the key features, which are all accurate, by the way. 6 playable races, all of this stuff is in. Here's the thing, though. Steam doesn't really make them put specifics here, and that's my first problem with this. There needs to be some sort of guideline as to what is actually put in that early access box. Because right now, what it really is marketing fluff. And here's the thing, the kind of people that are going to want to buy in early to a game that they know is unfinished to help fund the development and get in on the ground floor are not the kind of people that care about your marketing fluff. Okay, yes, it's good to know that you have a goal, you know, a big picture vision for what your game is going to be eventually. That's awesome. And it helps to know that, to see, okay, yeah, these developers, they have a goal in their minds that they're working towards. They've got this, well, you can kind of zoom out and see the small pieces of what the game is now versus the big picture of what eventually they want it to become. And that's very cool. I like very much that they do that. But that's not useful to me if I want to buy into your experience. I need to know what it is right now. It's actually kind of insulting, in my opinion, to be marketed to for an unfinished product. I don't want all of this marketing fluff and PR stuff. Save that stuff for AAA games. Don't tell me that. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I need to know what the game is now. I want that box to tell me what of the features that you list as this is what the game is going to be when it's complete are actually in it now. Because if I'm paying my money now, I want to know what I'm paying my money for. It's good to know what you want the game to be eventually, but that's not what it is now. So tell me what it is now. There are some other issues with this system. You have the very cool recent updates little columns. This is awesome. I'm really glad that Steam did this and allowed them to actually post the changelogs for all their recent updates. It tells you what the version number is, it tells you when, very importantly, this actually went through. So on DayZ, of course, the latest one is January 22nd, 2014. So that was, only 8 days ago. And it tells them what, it tells everyone what's going on. That's awesome, but it's only so useful. It's only useful to the point of basically being in the game, being in the early access build, and knowing, okay, they're fixing bugs. They're fixing a bug that I complained about last week on the forums. Awesome. But if I haven't yet shelled out my money for this unfinished product, these changelogs are only so useful. It's cool to see that they have dates, so I can see how often updates are being released for this game, which of course helps me figure out if I want to pay money for it or not. I can say, yeah, these developers are acting in a very timely fashion. They're releasing at least one update a month that's very clearly still being worked on. That's important, but it is not the only factor. Now, I do like this. It says, under the About the Game part on the DayZ Early Access, it says, Warning! In big capital letters. This game is Early Access Alpha. Please don't purchase it unless you're gonna support us and there's gonna be some issues and all kinds of shit. That's awesome. But again, that isn't actually necessary for them to put in there. It's cool that they did, but not every Early Access game says that. And this really gets to one of the biggest problems of this system to me. There's no curation here. You can put in whatever you want, basically. So, in order to prevent this from being just a useless rant video, let's also talk about, what can be done to solve this, or else it's basically just an annoying video that is full of complaints. So what can solve this problem? Valve needs to make developers put certain things in those boxes. Yeah, they're there for a reason, but right now, almost all developers fill them up with just fluff. And that's not useful. That big early access box, that blue banner below the screenshots of the game, needs to tell me what state the game is in right now. And it doesn't. So that's the first thing I would say to change. Valve needs to say, alright guys, you can be on early access, but here are some guidelines of what you have to do. They don't need to be draconian about it. They don't need to put in this huge wall of restrictions, because that's not the point of the service. But what needs to happen is, there needs to be more transparency as to what the heck is going on. because we've got some serious examples of some bait and switch BS. We've got examples like Castle Story and like Towns, where the devs have put it on early access and have gotten people's money and have barely even worked on the game since. They are unfinished messes of games that are available on the service right now to steal your money and are barely even being worked on. And in the description, it's got all this fluff about what they want the game to be eventually, but it in no way says, oh yeah, by the way, this stuff isn't in yet. And that needs to happen. Right now, it's basically an honor system. If the developers want to put in, hey, this is the state of the game right now, they can. Which is really nice when they do, but they don't have to, and that's the problem. They should have to. Valve should make them basically fill in these boxes in a checklist kind of form. Like, does it say what of your bullet list of features are available right now? Okay, make it say that. Because early access, of course, as you know, are not going to be finished, and that's fine. That's the point of the system. It's to help people basically get on the ground floor, to feel important in the development of the game, and also to help the developers get the money to continue developing their game, which they may not have been able to do in the first place, which is awesome, and it's a very cool system, and I like Valve for doing it a lot, for providing this very emergent, interesting system that is similar to Kickstarter, but is better in my opinion, because one, it is hosted by a video game company, because obviously Kickstarter is not just for video games, it's for all kinds of stuff. It's been around for a while, but it has only recently started getting popular for gaming. So Valve is saying, alright, well, we are a video game company, basically, you know, we'll host this system that's similar, but has more curation, hopefully, that says, yeah, if someone pulls a BS bait and switch, we are a video game company, we know how to help. We can offer refunds because it's on our video game service, not on this big nebulous cloud of Kickstarter programs. And secondly, with a Kickstarter, you can pay money and not get anything. You can basically, if you're willing to do a Kickstarter, you should only use money as if you were gambling. Yeah, you basically put money in with under the pretense that you'll never see it again, because that's just how Kickstarter works. Because it might happen that way. So you should only put in money that you're comfortable with saying, "I'll never see that again." Hopefully you will, but you might not. Early access is actually better for that because there is a build of the game that you can play when you pay money. On Kickstarter, you might pay $50 and get a t-shirt at some point and some promises of some stuff in the game, but the game never even has to come out yet. Under early access, you pay the money and you get the current build of the game to download and play immediately, which is awesome. And it is a nice incentive to make a Kickstarter-like system a little bit better for everyone involved. But here's the thing, that build that they give you isn't, its quality isn't really stated directly on a lot of these early access pages. It can be. The developers can say, here's what our game is right now. But Valve isn't really making them do that, and that needs to happen. So secondly, we've got some things like, what's it called? Guise of the Wolf, that awful, just horrible game that recently got green-lit. Now, this isn't early access, but it provides a similar point, so bear with me here. That game was awful. Yeah, it should not have got on Steam, and recently there's been some shit getting on Steam. I'm sorry, but there has been. There needs to be a little more curation to this. Now, I want to make it clear that games that you don't like deserve to be on Steam. Yeah, that's not what I mean. I don't mean if I don't like a game, it shouldn't be sold. That's not true at all. That's crap. Yeah, I don't play the Call of Duty series, for example, because their gameplay is just not for me. That type of shooter is not for me. I don't enjoy them. But does that mean that they shouldn't be sold on Steam? No, of course not. They should be. They very well should be. Loads of people enjoy that series. And more or less, at least, although Ghosts is a bit of a piece of crap recently, so I've heard, those games are released in complete states as advertised fit for purpose. Sometimes games are released which are not. Let's look at Guise of the Wolf. Guise of the Wolf is an utter disaster. It's a freaking mess. It has huge numbers of bugs. the effort put into making it a proper experience is very low. And I'm not trying to insult the developers here. I don't know what their experience is. I'm not a game developer myself. But there are serious issues with that game. You're talking about being able to clip through trees and rocks, getting stuck in walls because you walked straight through solid stone. You're talking about unnormalized voice acting. Talking about buggy, I guess, quests, quote unquote. Talking about not having proper tutorials, not telling you basic systems of the game that you need to continue and actually progress through the game. All kinds of stuff. That's not good. Yeah, I could not like the game, and that's fine, it could still be on Steam, but the fact is, it is broken, and it is a mess. So here's the thing. Couldn't Valve just hire people to play games? Seriously, it's not like there are 200 games every day that are trying to get on Steam. They can do this. Like, just get a room with nice computers, 30 of them or so, hire some people to playtest for you. We're not talking about, like, dev playtesters that have to, it's a soul-draining experience. They have to shake down the same part of the game over and over and over for every bug they can find. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about playing the game. They're like, okay, a new game is released on Steam. Let's play it and make sure it's fit for a purpose before we release it so everyone can buy it. If just one person did that for Guise of the Wolf, they could see that it's a mess and shouldn't have been released to take people's money. Someone could play the game, and whether or not they like it isn't the point. It's just, is it as advertised? Oh, we've got these skill trees in our game, the store says. Do they actually? Are the features list objects, that they say are in the game, are they there? Do they work? Does the game run like it should? Is it fit for purpose? Is it good is a matter of taste. That's not quantifiable through this sort of testing. It's just, does it work properly? I mean, seriously, come on. We've got things like people that say that Valve could never do that because it's too much work. Bullcrap, it is not too much work. Seriously, there are not that many games that are getting on Steam every day. They could hire a panel of people that would do that. But that's another topic for another time, I suppose. What we've got are droves of games in early access that are allowed to post what they want the game to be on their page, which is fine, but are not forced to post what the game is now on their page, and that is not fine. If I'm buying into a game, if I'm spending my money on an unfinished product, I want to know what I'm getting right now. And that's what it really comes down to. So, as for a way to solve this problem, half of it is probably on Valve to provide some guidelines, some sort of structure that the developers have to build around. And half of it is up to us and the developers themselves to kind of fix itself, because not all of it is Valve's fault, and not all of it can be fixed by them directly. So what if these playtesters we were talking about had a forum on the Steam forums of their own that you could go to, where it's basically a triangle of discussion. There are the people that are playing these early access games, shaking them down, testing them before they are released for people's money. There are the developers of said games, and us, the consumers, that we can get on those forums and see and talk. So there are these three parties that are interfacing with each other, with the developers and their game, with us wanting to spend money on this game and get in on its development, and with the people playing it that are, obliged to be honest about what it is. And surely this would prevent people from being screwed. You could go on there and it would be like, guys, this skill tree system that you have on your page as being an important part of the game isn't in the game yet. And then, of course, if they want to get on early access, they would be forced to change that and say, oh yeah, this is what we want, but in the little blue box, as it says, it's not in yet. That would be so much better, because then everyone could see truthfully what the game was. If, for example, I'm trying to, I'm trying to be reasonable here, because it's a good system. I like it, but it's just, of course it's imperfect. Obviously it's imperfect, and that's fine. But there's some serious issues with it that need to be solved because it is a mess right now and it's taking people's money, and that's not right. Let's say a game is not as advertised. Steam's refund policy is draconian and confusing. And right now, of course, they're offering refunds on pre-orders, which is very cool. Does early access count as a pre-order? Because it kind of is. It's basically like a pre-order with early alpha or beta access. Who knows? It's a tangle, and that's the issue. It's confusing people, and it's not making this whole get on the ground floor early access thing any more accessible for gamers. It's a neat idea, and I like it, but it's a web of intrigue right now. It is a mess. People sometimes are confused and are expecting, as the marketing fluff says, this complete experience, and what they get is an unfinished game. And of course, it's early access, so that's fine, but it can confuse people. And then there are the people that know what early access is that don't know if they should spend their money because they don't want to shell out $25-30 on an idea. You know, the idea is this interesting werewolf first-person exploration point-and-click-like game. Okay, cool idea. How was it implemented? Awfully. It's bad. That's the thing. So, there needs to be some sort of wall. And there needs to be some transparency. Some forced transparency. There are the assets on the Steam store page to tell all of us what state the game is in, how early the access is, and what the developers are doing right now. But not all of them are being utilized properly, and there are no rules, it seems, as to what actually goes in there. Basically, I mean, the marketing fluff and stuff, all that needs to stay in the description below the game, where it says, you know, description, and it has, you can put the storyboard for what the game is and everything. That's where that stuff goes, not in the early access box. That should say what the current state of the game is. Valve, make them put that there, please. And that's the thing, really. We're seeing a neat system corrupted by people using it opportunistically and for the wrong reasons. People like the Castle Story devs who can just take the money and run, basically, because they've gotten a bunch of people's money and they are not really obliged to continue now, because what the heck? Things like Towns, which are a mess as well and are being worked on, but it seems like very slowly. So there are people that are getting burned by this system every day, and that's not helping the image of the system itself, which needs to be, well, good. Yeah, which needs to be a useful, very cool, I'm supporting developers and getting to play their game early kind of system. When people are just shelling out huge amounts of money for nothing. The dev can be completely dishonest to them about what the game is right now, and they can still take their money, and that's wrong. This is a cool system and a good idea, but good lord, it needs rules, because right now it's a wild west, and that is not helping anyone. So, for example, I as a way to solve this problem, another way to sort of help it, as it were, guidelines, as in forum posts. Yeah, the devs are always posting on their forums, but sometimes they just silence dissent altogether, and we can barely tell what they're doing. They can close and delete threads that say anything bad about their game. And that's not good. Yes, obviously people trolling and being annoying douchebags, get them out of there, but they can abuse these tools, and anytime someone complains about what is advertised isn't actually how the game is right now, they can just be shut up. And that's wrong, because then no one knows! That's not good! That's not good at all. Not at all. So, I guess to finish it off, what I'm trying to say is this is a system, early access, that I like a lot. It's very cool, and I want to see it continue. But right now, it is unhealthy. It is dangerous, and it's this just pit of despair where you can throw your money and wallow around in not knowing what it's going to, basically. That's not good. That's not good at all. Devs need to be held to a certain standard of responsibility with their products. And we, as the people that wish to provide them, with money and get on in their experience, we need to be told in a much more detailed and honest way what we're paying into now. This system is geared towards people that want to get in on the down and dirty, right now, early development stages of the game. And all of the stuff on the store pages is constantly about what the finished game is going to be like. Yes, that's good, it's nice to know, but that's not what early access is. Save that stuff for the released game. What we want to know is what the down and dirty, right now version of the game is. Yeah? That's the whole point, so tell us, please. So I guess that's really all I have to say on the topic right now. It's that it's a good idea, but its implementation is seriously flawed and needs some serious changes before it should be taken seriously. Half of it needs to be some curation and some rules set down by Valve, and the other half of it needs to be by us, not just throwing out our money on every little idea that seems cool without even knowing how, what the state of the game is and how often it's even being updated. And the other part is the developers themselves that need to be held to a higher standard of honesty and need to be more clear with what the state of the early access game at the point of purchase is. The changelogs are a good start, but they only tell you a small fraction of the story. They do not tell you everything you need to know. And this very useful big blue early access banner often just says, the pie in the sky dream of what the game is eventually going to be, which is not useful information to people that want to buy into it now, when it obviously isn't that yet. So you don't want to make, Starbound's huge, awesome roadmap with all these percentages and details about what's being worked on when and by who. Okay, that's fine. So you don't want to take Overgrowth's path and say, make weekly updates of all these really cool features, and that guy's amazing, by the way, and what is being worked on at this very second. Fine, okay, that's fine. You don't want to put in that much for that. That's okay. We're not expecting you to make these awesome graphical roadmaps of what the game is right now, or these big weekly update videos that tell us the really cool details of what this week's update has added. That's okay. It's very cool if you do that, but if you don't want to, that's fine, but you still need to provide us with something. Right now, there are barely any differences between a finished game store page and an early access store page, besides the changelog columns and the blue banner that doesn't even have to have any specifics in it. What the heck? That's a problem right there. The pages should be different. One of them is finished and one of them isn't. So these games that are clearly unfinished and are not necessarily fit for purpose yet, which is fine, they need to say how unfinished they are. And right now, there isn't an impetus to do so. So in closing, I guess that's my point. Thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. And I don't want this video to just be a rant. I really do like Steam, and I love the system they've implemented, but it's got some issues. So there we go. I hope this maybe incites some discussion. Feel free to post your opinion in the comments, but be at least somewhat kind for me. And I guess thanks for watching. Thank you very much for watching. In fact, this is a long video, geez. And keep an eye on the early access system. Hold the devs to a higher standard of their honesty. I'll see you guys next time.